Of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. LMadu, and the topic is Egypt and the Muslim Brotherhood. And of course, Dr. LMadu has given us quite a bit of information concerning the history of the Muslim Brotherhood and the impact of this organization even today. Go on, Dr. LMadu. Let's see if we can pick up at that point.
Yeah, and the major fear of a lot of the Arab countries, in the Middle East, is that the infection of Brotherhood rule in Egypt is going to affect them. For example, in Sudan, they go by a different name, the National Islamic Front, led by Ali Hassan Turabi. That was the man who instigated President Bashir to introduce Islamic, rule in Sudan that started all these problems. This is part of it. Then in Tunisia, they're called the Renaissance Party under Mr. Ghanouchi. The Hamas in Gaza, they're part of the Muslim Brotherhood. In Iraq, they're called the Islamic Iraqi Party. So in different countries, they go by different names, but they're all tentacles of the Brotherhood. So what is going on in Egypt now is very significant insofar as the Sunni Muslim countries are concerned. Now, understand, I say Sunni. It has a very big relevance here. The Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni revivalist organization. Now, it doesn't have much influence in Shiite-dominated countries. And when Muhammad started his religion, after he died, there became two factions, the Sunnis and the Shiites. Now, the Brotherhood is a Sunni organization. So its influence is very minimal in countries like Iran,
Lebanon. Where there's not a large Sunni.
Exactly. Lebanon, Bahrain, and Azerbaijan. These countries are Shiite-dominated countries. So the Brotherhood doesn't have much influence there. But in countries like Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Russia, India. In fact, India has more Muslims than the whole Arab world put together. Turkey and all these places. They are afraid of what will follow if Morsi and the Brotherhood in Egypt succeed in imposing a theocratic dictatorship. And that is worrying to the United States and also to Israel. Even though Morsi had made a commitment to respect the Camp David Accords and other international agreements, still the U.S. is wary of what will happen.
The very influence and the very number in terms of the members of the Brotherhood would tend to indicate, in terms of these two religious factions, do you think that the Brotherhood has more members than any other faction? Because I think you've given us more names in terms of countries that are involved in that.
Yeah, the Brotherhood definitely, have more members than any other Islamic organization that we know of, because they are all in these countries. I mean, in Egypt itself is the best organized political party, say so in Egypt, even though it calls itself a religious organization. But remember that also the political front is the Peace and Justice party, under which Freedom and Justice Party, under which Morsi came to power. So now they have their own political wing as well as the religious wing. But both of them are the same. One feeds off the other. So it's very significant. Because Egypt is really the center of the Arab world.
That's what I was thinking. Egypt is a major player in reference to the Arab world. And how Egypt goes.
Exactly. Most of the Arab countries is the center of the Arab world. Most of what happens in the Arab world revolves around Egypt. So whatever happens in Egypt is going to affect the other ones. It's going to affect Jordan. It's going to affect the Palestinian territories. It's going to affect Kuwait. It's going to affect Syria. So that's very important. And Syria now is going through, a big crisis. And it's very significant because even the Egyptian government is supporting the opposition in Syria because of this Sunni Shiite thing we're talking about. Remember, I said the Brotherhood is a Sunni organization. Yeah, and those rebels in Syria are Sunnis, 80% of them. And the government of Syria is run by a Shiite government. They are called the Alawites.
With a small
minority. Yeah, 10% of the population. The Alawites. And the Alawites and the Shiites are the same. And that's why Iran is supporting Syria. Because those Alawites and the Shiites in Iran have blood relations, you see. But Egypt and Saudi Arabia, because of being Sunni, are supporters of the rebels who are 90% Sunni in Syria. So that is significant, because if the Sunnis win in Syria, you know, it strengthens a lot of the Brotherhood power, because most of those fighting in Syria now are members of the Brotherhood. Majority, those of them who rebelled in '82 against Assad.
And so it's now the Brotherhood in a real sense against Syria, would you say that?
Indirectly, because a lot of their members, you know, are in Syria.
Now, does Egypt have enough influence to do anything in reference to what is going on in Syria, the Brotherhood?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Egypt can supply them arms, those rebels. Yeah, definitely, Israel can supply them arms and tip the balance, you know. And most Arab countries will follow if Egypt starts supporting openly that rebellion.
And you're saying that Egypt will not come out openly and support the rebels against the Syrian government, when in fact the Syrian government appears to be one of the most despotic and one of the most corrupt governments there. But they've got a small minority of the population, and they're able to. Well, what can be done in reference to all of these power struggles, Dr. Madu, in terms of Egypt itself?
Well, the Egyptian situation, you know, right now, it has to play out itself. We have a lot of economic and strategic interests in Egypt that we don't want to upset the status quo or the apple cart, like they say. And Israel the same. You know, while Israel is scared of an Islamic government, but Israel prefers stability. You know, whomever is in power, as far as Egypt is stable and they don't have refugees flowing across, you know, Israel will be fine. So these are the two main concerns, because if there's a problem in Egypt now, a whole lot of refugees will be run across the border into Gaza, into Palestinian territories. And that creates more pressure on the Palestinian government in terms of refugees and all this, and more explosion. So it's in the interest of Israel for Egypt to remain peaceful and calm, even in Syria. That's why Israel is keeping quiet in Syria too. You know, Assad, even though he's been brutal, he also has maintained stability. You know, didn't bother Israel at this border.
And so that's the most important concern with Egypt, that the governments around it remain stable governments and able to defend themselves for themselves, as well as, in a real sense, by defending for themselves, they're able to protect Israel. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct. If there's stability, you know, in those places, then Israel won't have to worry about cross-border attacks, you know. Yeah, so that's very important. That's why Israel is keeping a neutral stance in what's happening in Syria. Because whomever wins in Syria really wouldn't be the best friend of Israel. But Israel would rather have somebody keep an eye on the country, that refugees are not running across. Because now there are over 100,000 refugees already run over to Lebanon. When it was the other way around before, you remember the Lebanese civil war, they were running to Syria. Now you have over 100,000 Syrian refugees in Lebanon. Now what happens? Some of those refugees will start drifting close to the Israeli border. And then most of them, when they get there, they get hungry and mad and all this. Then they start carrying guns and Molotov cocktails to throw over
into Egypt. And so that, I mean, Israel. And that's not in